Trust means different things to different people, and so for this reason I'm going to sit down shortly and you're going to hear this evening from a wider range of people than just me. In a moment I'll introduce our keynote speaker, and after he has shared with you our research, both from Australia and around the Asia Pacific region, I'll then introduce our panellists for a Q&A about the role of trust in business and government and what this means from our relationships perspective with the rest of Asia. What role will trust play in our collective economic and social success?
Well, I'll start if you like. I think it's a very interesting question, and particularly if you look at, I think the slide there in relation to China and Chinese companies and trust was particularly interesting. And if you think now of Australia, our three largest export markets, China 26.6%, Japan 16.7%, Korea 7.6%. I know that because I did a speech on it last night. But the top three are more than 50%. And this issue of values and ideology, I think, is a really fundamental one. So if you think of, Chinese values, for example, they're probably more around personal success, hard work, personal responsibility, and you think of some of the underlying Australian values, which are there's probably a greater sense of complacency, I suppose, and because of our open democracy and free media, we're much more questioning and much more cynical, I think, of government and business. And I think the interesting question, and Melbourne University School of Government is looking at these values issues at the moment. Whose set of values is likely to prevail into the future? My own view is that the values are probably going to come a little bit closer together. So, in China, you will see more democracy, you will see a freer media, you're seeing that through all the online search engines in any case. And in Australia, for a whole range of reasons, we will see a shift, this expression about more responsibility, less reliance on government. I think this will be a trend irrespective of political parties. And so those set of values may become a little more closely aligned over the next few years. And anyway, I think it's an interesting issue to watch and to see which sort of value system prevails.
If I can add to that, business is about relationships. It's about person-to-person links and person-to-person relationships. And if trust lies at the centre of that, you can't really do business in the absence of trust. And especially when you're doing business across borders with people that you're sort of a little unfamiliar with, all the more, building that trust becomes something you've really got to invest a lot of time and effort into. The onus is upon us really to sort of start to understand all these countries. If we want to be successful in the country, then we've really got to do our homework, learn more about the cultures, learn about the companies that are successful, because you can walk into a country like India and not knowing the Reliance brand or not understanding, say you're fearing large business. You're wanting to deal with a family-owned business, and you may not know that this is actually a huge publicly listed but family-owned business. So doing that kind of research is, I think, really important in breaking down those barriers that create the mistrust.
Mark, in your experience, how significant will the historic relationships that we identify with some of those differences be in moving forward, both as a country and an economy, but also as a region?
Look, one of the studies certainly coming out of Asialink is that, and my experience in M&A across and expansion across Asia, Southeast Asia, is that you do have to understand the history of a country and the culture of a country. And in that respect, for example, doing business in India, there are a lot of businesses who still believe that every foreign investor is the Dutch East India Company or the English East India Company, and just there to, literally rape and pillage. Equally, there is that view in China. So the interesting comment that you were making about Huawei coming into Australia, equally applies for Australians trying to set up businesses in China, Southeast Asia and what have you. So it's understanding that culture. The issue about trust is that it does take time. It's a function of credibility, reliability and that intimacy that you can build up. And we talk about organisations. Well, business is person to person. It's very personal. You do need to spend time in that. And if you read anything about doing business in Asia, it is spending that time to build that credibility over sometimes many, many years.